right, welcome back to Shifting to Solids. Today we're going to be talking about the plane tool. And before we talk about where it's at and where it's located, let's talk about planes. When I first started teaching Onshape and drafting as a whole, we talk about planes, and I tell you that it's like a piece of paper. So we have our front plane, our top plane, and our right plane that automatically exist in our drawing space because they coincide with our view cube up here. So if I were to rotate this around, you'll see those planes are moving right. Top, the opposite of top is bottom, opposite of right is going to be left, and opposite of back is going to be front. So if we keep that in mind and we think about what we're talking about, these planes are actually pieces of paper. And what helps you remember is that our sketch icon is a pencil. So if you have a pencil, you need something to write on, and that's what those are for. But you can add new planes and new pieces of paper and different ways to draw, because once you start coming up with these complex shapes, you're going to need to be able to do some stuff, right? So let's go up top here and we'll see where the plane tool lives. It's going to be right here, and what it is it says create a new construction plane by referencing existing geometry. So we need to create some of that existing geometry. But before we head down from this, I want to talk about these 4 tools right here. So the last time we talked delete part. Now next to it is modify fillet, delete face, move face, and replace face. We are not going to be talking about those today. Like I said, this series is our Shifting to Solids series, and those are more the surfacing techniques. So I'm trying to get everything done with these toolbars using only solid modeling techniques, not diving into the surfacing techniques yet. It's one of those that's a little more advanced. It's not the way of doing projects that I typically do, so it's going to be a learning curve for me, but also I don't really know where the interest is. So if you guys are like, hey, that's the only reason I've tuned in is I really want to learn this surfacing stuff, well, leave me a comment and we'll change some things and shuffle some things around. But I figured the majority of my people who are learning this, and teachers and students and stuff I've talked to, are looking for the basics. And so I'd rather start with the basics and level my way up. And I feel like this is a tool that needs to be talked about way before these other ones. So without further ado, let's get some geometry drawn. So let's start a sketch. We're going to start on that top plane, Shift and S to start that sketch, N to normalize. And at this point, we would want to hide those planes. I'm just going to draw a rectangle, center point rectangle. Let's go 10 wide by 8 tall. And I'm going to press Shift and E to extrude that bad boy. Roll it over to the side, and let's make that thickness 10 inches tall. So we'll have a rectangular prism that's 8 by 10 by 10. And now, if I wanted to draw something else, let's say I needed a hole cut right in the center. I'm going to start a new sketch, and it asks me to select a sketch plane. A lot of the times, we'll turn those planes back on, my students get caught up in the fact thinking that they can only draw on these planes. Those are the only planes that you've ever told me about. Well, if I click this face, now you'll see in that plane selection window, it told me that I'm using the face of extrude 1. And if I tilt this a little bit, you'll see that that's where we're going to be drawing, is on that face. I could click to draw on that face, and you'll see now I'm drawing on that side. So it doesn't really matter. Obviously, orientation matters on what you're drawing, but that's where those come into place. So I'm going to draw on that face now. Okay. Let's put it here in the front again. And I'm going to draw another rectangle that's just going to cut out maybe there. Extrude that, remove it, and we'll have it go through. I'll have it cut through all the way. And we'll say okay. So from then on, now I will be able to start using this plane function. So I'm going to come up here to my plane tool, and first one in this drop down, you'll see we have offset, plane point, line angle, point normal, 3-point, mid-plane, curve point, and tangent. First one, and the most common one you'll use, is an offset plane. So what it's asking me right now is, what am I offsetting it from? What plane am I offsetting it from? So I'm going to offset from this wall right here, and I can say, hey, I want to offset that 5 inches and press enter. Well, now it's going to go 5 inches to the left. So if I were to select this and my plane and do a measurement, it would give me 5. But I could also go the other direction. And if we look, doing some simple math, my new plane that I drew is right in line with my, that should be my left or my right plane. They're right inside one another because our block was 10 inches wide. So half of that would be 5 inches. But let's say I needed that to be 2.5 inches offset. Well, now I just broke my piece in 2/4, right? So I just have, it's only 2.5 inches from that side. Maybe I only need it 1 inch in. Okay. Maybe I want to cut from the bottom up and I want to draw something that exists here. Maybe a slot's going to come out. Let's say 5 inches up that way. And then I want to draw on that plane a shape like this, same rectangle. And now I'm going to extrude it, but instead of extruding it and cutting all the way up, maybe I only want a slot that goes 2 inches up from the halfway point. So now I'm starting to come up with some geometry that exists in a way that I can manipulate some stuff, right? So we're just going to keep messing with this block and go from there. So our next time is the plane, the point plane. So now this one, what this one does is it's asking for a plane and a point. So you have to click 2 things. And what I'm going to do is click, I want this plane right here. And I'm going to click this bottom corner point right here. And you'll see what it does is it aligns it parallel to the plane that's existing, but based off of that point there. So if I get rid of that point, and maybe I want to do it at the origin, you'll see it'll throw it right there. Maybe I want to throw a plane. I want to throw this plane, and I want it to, not coincide with that point. That wouldn't make sense. Maybe I wanted to go with that point right there. So now it's going to cut it at that face right there and give me another plane. In reality, I would just click this face and draw on there, but that's the idea behind this. If we come in here, let's close out of that plane really quick, and I go back into this and give myself a little bit more of an angle. Let's say we'll go to there and to there. And now I cut those out and I don't pick this piece right here. Now you'll see we have that angled side. And now I can do point plane. We'll do a plane point. So I'm going to click that plane, and you'll see that it's not straight like the other ones were. And I'm going to click this point. So it's going to be parallel. We look from the top. There's my existing plane, and there is my new one oriented about that point. Okay. I can do flip normal. And in this aspect, it's not going to really do much. But that's an option. Sometimes it'll flip it to the other side based off of the point or the line. And you'll see that a little bit later. So that's how we would do that. Now, what would I use that for? I'm going to draw on this plane. And remember, we always press N to normal. And now you'll see I'm cutting. It's my piece is sideways because now I need to draw something a little different. So I'll just draw off of this point. Let's draw a rectangle. Yeah, that's good. And let's cut that out. And as we remove that, we'll go the opposite direction and we'll go symmetrical. And it's going to go and cut a wedge. And now I have a spot to put that, that piece. So that was the point plane. Next one is our line angle. So I can choose any line I want. And we'll go with this one on the end. And now it's going to ask me, select an additional point, plane, or axis to specify where the angle is measured from. So I could go and say, hey, I want it to align with that point right there, and it'll give me a angled one. Or what I like to do is just grab this and type in my angle. Maybe I need this to be at exactly a 37.5 degree angle. Now I can draw on this plane. We'll draw another sketch, and I'm going to draw a circle. And we'll go there. And you'll see it's not straight. So now I'm going to cut it out and I'm going to remove it. And we'll go symmetrical as well. It's not going to like that too much. Let's go. There we go. And I'll just go one direction. All right, so we'll remove that and we'll say, okay, I could do another extrude of that same face, remove it. And you'll see it's starting to cut out some funky geometry. It doesn't like that one. We've got too much stuff going on there. But you'll see now I have all these planes. So people are always asking me why in my trainings and stuff, why do I always say to remove the planes? When you start getting here, it's a lot easier to see the part you're dealing with and to shut all those on and off at the same time, pressing that P button. So that was our line angle. Our next one, point normal. I don't really use this one, but it's similar to the like plane point. What you're going to do, point normal, you would click a point and it would make a plane normal to that. So I would click like maybe like this face and that point, and it would make a plane normal to that. It never really works the way I like it to. There's more stuff on their tutorial page, but it doesn't. I feel like there's things that I do in here that I don't really run into. If you're an expert with planes, tell me what I'm doing wrong. But there's a lot of different options still too. 3-point plane, pretty simple. Click 3 points. So let's say I wanted a plane that cuts through this point and this point and this point right here. It's going to give me whatever that wonky piece is. We'll say, okay, I can click that plane now, draw something normal to that. And let's add a hexagon. Oh, lost it. So we'll click, we'll say okay there, change that back to 6. And now I can extrude that as a new piece. And maybe now that gets, or we could even remove it for the other direction. Maybe we got like a wedge or something that needs to cut through the center. And now we have that like that. Let's make that a little smaller. Actually, let's go. Let's extrude that all the way through. There we go. Could have said through all, but now I have a spot for, maybe it's a fit up jig and a hexagonal part has to sit exactly in that spot. And so, and then some other tools are going to come through. I mean, we're just kind of making stuff up as we go on this, what this part is. But our next one, so that was the 3-point. Our next one is mid plane. And this is the one that is honestly the most used, other than offset. This is probably the second most used one that I use. So I need a mid plane, and I need to figure out how to drill a hole in the center of this, but I don't really have a center. Like that's a center line, and that's kind of a center line. I could kind of figure out where that works. Or even here, I want the middle of this. So I could click this face and this point, and it's going to add a plane. It's kind of confusing when we have all this stuff going. You know what? We'll go face to face there. So I need a plane in the middle of those two faces. Well, it's going to find the exact middle of those. It's kind of hard when they're at different angles. And it's going to give me a plane that I could draw in now. So maybe, actually, let's get rid of those. Let's do it in between the middle of, we'll go here. I need the middle of this face and the middle of that face. Okay, so it's thinking, and it just drew me a plane right there in the center, because I want holes along this line. So let's do, so it's going to be a little bit different, but you can see how things start getting in the way. There we go. Plane 5, Shift S will normalize, and I'm going to draw a hole, but I'm actually going to do it a little different. I'm going to draw it with a rectangle, and we're just going to rotate it around an axis. So we'll say, okay, we'll use the revolve tool. And I'm going to select this. We're going to revolve around this axis, and we're going to say remove. And you'll see now I have that hole cut that goes all the way through. That's dead center of this. So I could then do a pattern. We go back to my sketch. We'll say normal. Rotate that guy around so we're back to the way we're supposed to be sitting. There we go. Normal. I could take this rectangle and start a pattern and do a linear pattern. And maybe I need 3 holes that are spaced 3/4 of an inch away from each other. And we'll say okay. And we'll go back to revolve. And I would have to do that 3 more times. Or I could even do the pattern out here in the 3D. Do a linear pattern here. Parts to pattern. I want a feature. I want to do that revolve 3 times. The direction I need to go is that way. And I need them to be spaced 0.75. We'll go 0.5 away from one another. And now I have some vent holes or some alignment holes that go all the way through my part that are completely centralized to that specific plane. So that's where, let's draw that a little lower. There we go. Now they go all the way through my part. So that's how that plane works. The mid plane, always a good one. Curve point is our next one. So we'll click curve point. Now that I have this curve, I have a curve and I have a point. And you'll see that it's going to make that plane go around that curve and attach to a point. So if I clicked this point, you'll see that it's still, we'll go right there, it's still aligned with that point or that curve, but it's on this point. So if I clicked my origin, now it's going to be right there. If I clicked this corner, it's going to match with that curve, but it's going to follow whatever point I tell it. I could also click a point way out here and it'll throw in there. I could click a point over here and now it's going to align. And yes, these two would be the same. I could click, let's try this guy. Let's see what this does. That point right there, and you'll see we're getting kind of a lot of planes going here. This is the new plane that it drew for me. So plane number 6 is what it's drawing. I could also shut off all my planes and then specifically individually turn on that one. So that's that new plane that we just drew. And then maybe on this plane, I'm going to draw, another rectangle of some sort. We'll just kind of base that there, extrude that, and we need to remove up that way. And we're cutting it out. So some crazy geometry we start getting, all just using planes. And then our last one we're going to have, so curve point, is tangent. And so tangent, I need a plane that is tangential to a curve and a point. Shut off all our planes again, or turn the planes back on. There we go. So we're looking for the one that says plane 7. And I did not see it. Oh, we got too many things selected. I need a plane that runs tangent to that and that, maybe. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be working on this model. I'd have to, let me draw a circle real quick. So if I start a new part studio really quick, I'll draw this over here. We'll do a cylinder. I feel like we had a lot going on in that other one. Go cylinder up, and now I want a plane that runs tangent to that surface. I could click here and it'll give me a surface tangent to there. So it also says select an additional point or plane to orient the plane. So I could say tangent to that, but coincide with another deal over here. I could say flip alignment. It'll swap the sides. I can say flip normal. And we don't have any points that it's attached to, so it's not really going to do that. But this is where you get based off of curves. I thought it would do it on that one in this here. Maybe I can get it if I try the inside wall plane there. Tangent plane. Yeah, there we go. I was clicking the wrong spot. So it's going to give me something that's tangent to there. And then if I wanted to flip the alignment, it would be tangent like so. I mean, a million different ways to cut apart a shape or add to a shape or however you want to do it. But like I said, the most common ones are going to be your midplane and your offset. Line angle, if you guys watched the tournament on Friday, that was how I kind of was getting that face to spin. And that's how we would do that. Come back in here. I'll show you where the power of the midpoint plane kind of comes in. Or the mid plane, sorry. I need to find the center. Let's go back to sketch 1. I need to find the center of this shape right here. I want dead middle between these two faces. Let's go up. I need to figure out the middle between that. How are you going to do that without drawing a bunch of lines and trimming and stuff, right? I click those two faces. I click plane. It knows I probably want a mid plane already. So if I have those pre-selected, it's going to throw me a plane right in the center of those two. And if we look from the top, it's just half the distance to each plane. I could pick this plane and this plane, and it'll do it again, half the distance there. Okay. So those are going to be your most common uses for mid plane. Another time too, sometimes it's real easy and I could just do the math. I like just throwing something in the center and getting like a halfway sandwich cut. And if you're doing any 3D printing or you're doing any 3D modeling for 3D printing, I've made some stuff. We made a breather cap for a lawnmower that you could never make using any other means. Forging, casting, injection molding. I don't think any of it would work. You would need 3D printing to be able to make this with those layer lines. And basically what we did is we made like a breather tube for the top of a lawnmower gas cam, just to allow it to vent. But one hole split off in 8 directions and followed a curve pattern. So I needed to be able to find the center of that where they all were going to coincide. So I drew a plane right in the center, did a mid plane, and then went from there. So a lot of different ways you can play around with this and come up with different ways to do the planes. But that's the magic of that. So again, work with the planes, play with it. If you have a question, let me know down in the comments. We're kind of running out of tools to do with this shifting to solids. I think I'm going to skip offset surface, because this again is more surfacing stuff, and I'll switch into Helix next week. I know some of you guys are loving the thread video. That's one of my most popular right now. So I'm going to show you kind of how you can cut your own threads and how you can base that. Again, I think most of these curves are going to be more of the surfacing type deal. And then we'll skip over some of these derived and variables. That's a whole other class all on its own. We'll move into the frame tool. That I can do a whole series on just frames, making trailers and barbecue layouts. And I know a lot of you fab coaches are looking for more ways to show your kids how to do stuff. But yeah, that's going to pretty much do it for us today. If you guys have an idea for another series, let me know. Last thing I wanted to end this with is we made it to 1,000, and I just wanted to thank you guys all so much for the support. You know, the tournament, the support during the tournament was awesome. Hearing you guys cheer me on and seeing that was really cool. But then afterwards, checking on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and checking how many new followers I had, but that we broke that 1,000 subscriber mark. So once we get those watch hours up, we'll be able to start a membership plan and a community and all that stuff, and I'll be able to give back to you guys doing badges and whatnot. And because I know we got some super fans out there, but if there's something you want to come up with, or there's a project idea you're in dire needs of having me do, let me know and I will help you get your stuff done. So that's going to do it for us. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.